Okay, law of cosines is also created for non-right angle triangles. So it is similar to law of sines, but you use it under different circumstances. You use it in a situation where you don't have an angle and a side across from that angle. So you can, and it's a little harder mathematically to use. Let's say I've got a triangle like this. I know 10, I know 8A, 6, actually that would be B. Okay, so I don't have what I need. So to use law of sines, I would have to know the side across from the angle. I don't have any ability to get either one of those angles, so there has to be another way to do this. Now, I'm going to do it with letters, but I want you to understand the letters are just positionings, because you know that you have different triangles that aren't A, B, C. So in this particular triangle, this is the pattern that you would use. B squared, in other words, the side opposite the angle that you know. Okay, B squared is equal to A squared plus C squared minus 2 times A times C times the cosine of B. Okay? Now it looks so complicated, but there's definitely a pattern here. I'll let you copy and then we'll discuss. Okay. This and this have to be the ones that are opposite each other. Okay, so your letter that's over here is a side, and it's got to be opposite the side that you know the angle of. Okay, now we're going to go later on, we're not going to know any angles, and we're going to work our way backwards here. But then these are the two sides that you know. Okay, so you square them and add them, then you multiply them together and multiply by 2. Now, please understand your calculator would need a set of parentheses around that, okay? Because otherwise it's going to go this squared plus this squared minus 2, then it's going to multiply the whole thing by everything behind it. So on this particular triangle, you would have B squared is equal to 10 squared plus 8 squared minus 2 times 10 times 8 times the cosine of 60. Now, truthfully, you can put that whole thing into your calculator. Just make sure you're putting parentheses where you need to put them. So put a parenthesis here, and then you would need a parenthesis there. Now remember, you don't need all those parentheses, okay? But this is going to give you a beginning parenthesis, so you would put one behind it, and then you would put another one, okay? So I would go 10 squared plus 8 squared minus parenthesis. And if you wanted to, you could do that in your head. Okay, that's 160 times the cosine of 60. And it's going to give me 84. Now, is that what B is equal to?
No.
No, B is going to equal to the square root of that. So I'm going to go ahead and take the square root of 84. And I'm going to get 9.2. Okay, so now this is 9.2. Now, at that point, I can switch over and do law of sines. Okay, now that's what you could continue with law of cosines, but you can see very quickly that law of cosines is a little bit more complicated than law of sines. So at that point, I would switch over and I would go 9.2 over the sine of 60 is equal to 8 over the sine of angle A. Now obviously you're going to end up using inverse. Now you've already done a whole day's worth of law of sines, so hopefully at this point you can go back and implement law of sines. So you would have angle A is equal to the inverse sine of 8 times the sine of 60 divided by 9.2. Okay, you know how to do that, okay? Inverse sine, 8 times the sine of 60 divided by 9.2. And that's going to give me an answer of 48.9. Now understand, we've rounded here, we've rounded here, so you might be a little off from the answer because there's no way to do this without rounding. Okay, so then, obviously to find that, I just subtract from 180. 180 minus 60 minus 48.9, I'm going to get a 71.1. Okay, does that make sense? Yes, no,
So you
maybe?
use what?
I used law of cosines first, and the reason why I used it first is because I didn't have an angle opposite of side. I couldn't use law of sines, okay?
Okay.
The circumstance did not present it. Okay, so let's try another one, see if we can get it set up. All right, what's my setup? Because I don't have an angle opposite sides.
You would do x squared
Okay,
equals 11 squared plus 25 squared minus 2. And then, let me see what you have. And then you would do 11 times 25. And then the cosine of x.
cosine of what?
X,
Which is
45.
45. Okay. All right. Don't forget though, once you get an answer there, that you have to take the square root of it. Okay? Because that's what x squared is equal to. So 11 squared plus 25 squared minus parenthesis 2 times 11 times 25 times the cosine of 45, and that's going to give me like this big old number. Now I wouldn't round it, I mean you can round it to write it down, but I would just leave it in my calculator and go square root and go second answer and let the calculator give you an answer of 18.9. Okay? Then once you, so this is now 18.9. Now you're back to the homework like you did last night. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Little bit harder circumstance. Still using law of cosines. You don't know any angles. So let's say I've got one like this. And it says solve. Well, it doesn't matter which one you do first, but I'm going to need to pick R, S, or T. So pick R, S, or T. Which one do you want to find first? T. Okay, so if I'm going to find T, the only place in law of cosines that I have an angle is at the end, right? So it says the cosine of T. So that means I need little t out here on the outside. So I'm going to go 18 squared is equal to 23 squared plus 37 squared minus 2 times 23 times 37 times the cosine of angle T. So there's my unknown. Okay, you with me? Now be careful here, because the temptation is to do all of that and move it to the other side, and you cannot do that. Let's do this part right here. We'll do some of our numbers. 18 squared, 324. Then I'm going to do those two together. 23 squared plus 37 squared is equal to 1,898. Then I'm going to do that. 2 times 23 times 37 is gonna give me 1,702 times the cosine of angle T. Now, I cannot do that because this right here is multiplied by that. So I have to get rid of this first. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna subtract it, right? So I have 324 minus 1,898 . Now what am I gonna do?
You're gonna do the cosine, aren't you?
I gotta get that by itself. What am I gonna do?
Divide.
I'm gonna divide both sides by negative 1,702. That goes away. Now I'm left with the cosine of A. Now I'm trying to find an angle, so what am I gonna use? The inverse, okay? So I'm gonna bring it up here. I'm gonna use the inverse cosine of 1,574. Now it's gonna be positive because it's a negative divided by a negative. And that right there is gonna give me what angle A is equal to. Okay, you with me? Okay, so inverse cosine 1,574 divided by 1,702 is gonna give me 22.4. All right? Now, what would you do to find the rest of it?
Sine.
I would use law of sines. Okay, so then you proceed from that point to use law of sines. All right, I'm going to give you one of these to try, and I want you to solve it from beginning to end. Okay, I don't want to beat a dead horse with law of sines because y'all don't really have too much trouble with it. So the only thing that we're really adding is the law of cosines at the beginning of it. Okay. All right. And I'm gonna do it up here while y'all are doing it at your desk. All right, solve. In other words, find all your missing parts. And on this, you know, they might be a little bit off because of rounding. you.
Question. Thank you.
Oh, my bad, my bad, my bad. I think I didn't hit a button right on that. Is that what you guys got? With that, okay, alright.
I have an error.
Yeah, then, okay, let's see what happened.
I did one of them wrong.
I'm doing this fine. Bro.
Okay, you had gotten, you got the 9 though. Okay, okay, you did not, where'd the 5, where'd that go? Where's that?
It's an error when I did
Yeah,
it, so
because that's, I mean, if you'll notice, it's 24 times the sign of 9, not times 5 times the sign of 9.
I don't know why I put 5 in there.
Okay, so let's do it right and see if it'll give you an arrow statement. Oops, helps to put the 9 in there. Divided by 5. Yeah,
Okay.
it's just a careless mistake on your part. Missed one of them?
I got 52 instead of 48.
Well, it could just be okay, it might. Okay, we just did it in a different order. Well, for one thing, where'd the 25 come from? I don't know, that might be the difference.
I got an error on that one.
You did on that
Put it
too,
wrong,
okay.
24.